two, one. Welcome everyone to Pro Baseball Central. This is Joe McDonald here with you, and we're going to be discussing in the next few minutes with Hal Bock, our senior columnist in New York Sports Today, about the Hall of Fame vote. How are you, Hal?
I'm good, Joe.
Good to hear. So we got four new members of the Hall of Fame, with Mariano Rivera being the first unanimous vote. What are your feelings about it?
Well, I have a lot of thoughts about the Hall of Fame. First of all, I thought that Mariano Rivera being 100%, I thought that was perfectly appropriate. He was the best relief pitcher of his time, maybe of all time. And so he becomes the first player to get every vote. And that's great. Great for him and good for the Hall of Fame. I think that distinction will last only a short time because I think next year you're going to see Derek Jeter get a full 100% of the vote when he becomes eligible because their credentials are impeccable. You can't not vote for these guys. So I think that's a dramatic change that's going to come about in the next couple of years. I think that certainly Jeter will be 100%. I don't know if we'll have others beyond that, but you're at least going to have two Yankees in there with 100%. The other thought that I have, I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
Well, the one thing with Jeter is because he's kind of a political animal right now, that may affect the vote, even though it shouldn't. Being the general partner of the Miami Marlins, he may have rubbed a couple of people the wrong way over the last few years that they might withhold the vote.
Yeah, you're right about that because the writers can be vindictive sometimes. But if you're a legitimate voter and you're looking at the credentials, you can't withhold a vote based on your personal feelings. I never did. I never would. For example, you have Clemens and Bonds, a very controversial pair of candidates. I never voted for them, and I never would, because they cheated the game. Now, that has nothing to do with my personal feelings about each of them. I didn't like either of them in my personal dealings with them, but that has nothing to do with it. What they did, they cheated the game, and you can't cheat the game. The game does not allow for cheating. So, although they're making progress, they're up now just under 60% of the vote. They only have 3 more years to go, so I don't know if they're going to get in. But the problem I have with the Hall of Fame, one of the problems I have with the Hall of Fame, is they have a side door. Those committees that consider candidates who do not get in on the baseball writers' vote, they put in Harold Baines. Harold Baines was he was a nice player, a good player. In my mind, not a Hall of Famer. They put in Alan Trammell, very nice shortstop, very good player. But to me, the Hall of Fame is for a very special player. And these guys are not special players, and they're getting in through side doors, through these committees. And I suppose that if Clemens and Bonds don't ever reach the 75% plateau, that there's an excellent chance that they'll get in on one of these committees. So I despair for that, but that's the way it goes.
Well, a couple of things with Clemens and Bonds is also they're at 60% of the vote. You may see an increase in the next couple of years based upon other guys falling off and guys who have gotten in to the Hall of Fame that, now there's an extra vote on people's ballots, especially as they approach that 10th year. They may, they may surpass the 75%. Because more people are going to vote for them. And we saw that with, say, like Tim Raines, who, like, on his last year, got in because it was his last year of eligibility.
I think Cooperstown wants those guys in the Hall of Fame, and the reason I think that is that they rejiggered the voting population a couple of years ago, including me, because they knew that older voters were not so compliant, were not so willing to forgive and forget, and most of the older voters were not voting for Bonds and Clemens. So what they did was they decided that if you're retired, you're no longer active, you no longer have a vote. Well, I'm retired, but I watch more baseball games than many of the members of the Board of Trustees at the Hall of Fame or Board of Directors at the Hall of Fame. I watch games every day, every night. So I think I'm well aware of the qualifications of the candidates, but I think the Hall of Fame decided that they wanted a younger electorate because a younger electorate would be more willing to look the other way when it comes to the PED population. The other thing is the Hall of Fame now includes Bud Selig, the commissioner who was in charge of baseball during the PED and steroid problem that the baseball went through, and he looked the other way pretty much for much of that time. And the voters think that, well, if you put in Bud Selig and he was in charge, you're giving a pass to the steroid population. So let's vote for Clemens and Bonds. And that's why when they first became eligible, they were getting 30% of the vote. Now they're up to almost 60% of the vote. I despair for the day that they get 75%.
Well, I mean, we also started seeing some guys who had allegedly steroids behind them, like Ivan Rodriguez getting it. So that's also the dam kind of burst a little bit on those.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so if Pudge can get in, Clemens and Bonds probably has room.
I just don't know. I just don't know. I don't know where we're going with the Hall of Fame, frankly.
All right. Well, if you're looking at, let's look at some of the other ones. Edgar Martinez, which was another up to a couple of years ago.
Here's another question for you. I have another question for you.
Sure.
They put in Roy Halladay yesterday. And,
right.
Certainly he was an excellent pitcher. He won 203 games. That's a lot of games to win. In view of the fact that the way baseball is designed now, we'll never see another 300-game winner. Well, Tommy John won 288 games. That's 85 games more. And he never got a sniff from the Hall of Fame. And I would think that Tommy John is sitting there wherever he is and saying, wait a minute, I won 85 more games than Roy Halladay. How come I'm not in the Hall of Fame? I think part of the Roy Halladay election was a sympathy vote because of the tragic death at the age of 40 in an airplane accident. But I don't know. Is he a Hall of Famer? I don't know. He may very well be a Hall of Famer.
But do you put him more in a category like Pedro Martinez, who basically, for a certain period of time, he was clearly by far one of the top three pitchers in baseball. Whereas Tommy John was never considered the greatest pitcher in baseball over a period of time.
Sure, yeah.
He was more a compiler. He was there for so long. I mean,
same thing is true of Jim Cott, 283 victories.
Right, and even Brooke Blyleven, another one who I think had 290 victories or something.
But then you have Tony Oliva, who was a terrific hitter, one of the best hitters of his time, and he fell one vote short on the Old Timers Committee or whatever committee they call it, and he can't get in. Gil Hodges was a heck of a hitter and a pretty good manager. He can't get in. I don't understand it. It's just there's no rhyme or reason to to the membership. Unfortunately, some of them are no brainers. Mariano Rivera, no brainer.
Right.
You'd have to be deaf, blind, and just not be paying attention not to vote for Mariano Rivera. And
Well, yeah,
thankfully,
I mean,
all of the writers did vote for him.
right. He changed the game. It was, basically for all those years, the Yankees were playing 8 inning games. If they had a lead after 8 innings, they had to win. So that pretty much, cemented
Yeah, it
him
was
in the Hall
automatic.
of Fame.
If he
Yeah,
came trotting in from the bullpen, you knew the game was over.
pretty much. Pretty much. But, the interesting one is Mike Mussina, who, had a very good career, won 20 games once in his last season. But it's also because he had a very good hitting Yankee team. I mean, he always had these high numbers, but never had extraordinary numbers. I mean, he had 270 wins? But he was never the extraordinary pitcher in baseball. He was always very good.
I agree with you. Mussina, I always admired him. He was a battler. He fought you tooth and nail, and he was a tough guy on the mound. And he won, as you said, 270 games. He only won 20 games once. He never won the Cy Young Award. And yet he gets into the Hall of Fame on his sixth time. I think it's his 6th year of eligibility. I don't know. I mean, I think he was a very good pitcher, and I'd love to have him on my team. But is he a Hall of Famer? I don't know. Not at the level that I hold for the Hall of Fame. For me to vote for you for the Hall of Fame, you have to be an exceptional player. And I know there are some people, you're allowed to vote on the ballot. You're allowed to vote for 10 players. I never did when I had to vote. Sometimes I voted for 5, maybe 6. There are players who I voted for every year who never came close. To me, and this is his last year on the ballot, and he got about 30%. Fred McGriff was one of the best hitters of his time. Hit 493 home runs. Never came close to the Hall of Fame. Now, he may get in through that back door with the committees later on, but I just thought that was not right. I thought Fred McGriff was deserved Hall of Fame designation. There are other players in the Hall of Fame. I mean, Bill Mazeroski is in the Hall of Fame, and he was a very good second baseman. But he was a lifetime 260 hitter. Now, he happened to hit the home run that ended the 1960 World Series, and a lot of people remember that. If you saw it or even if you've read about it, what a dramatic moment. And I think a lot of his Hall of Fame stature comes from having hit that one home run. Now, Joe Carter hit a home run that I saw in 1993 for Toronto that ended the World Series. He's not in the Hall of Fame. So can you explain that to me? Was Carter's home run any less dramatic or important than Bill Mazeroski's home run? I don't think so. Joe Carter was a terrific player in his time.
Oh, I agree with you, but that's actually the fun part of this, is that we could argue all day when it comes to
true.
individual players and if they deserve it or not. It's the interesting one that's going to be coming up in I think about 2 or 3 years is going to be Carlos Beltran, who everyone's saying he probably should be in the Hall of Fame from what I'm hearing. And, you look at his numbers and you're kind of like, really? I don't know. He's kind of a borderline guy in my book.
The Hall of Fame is not an objective institution. It's subjective. And I can tell you funny stories. Like, I remember late in my career, my writing career, when I was an active baseball writer with the Associated Press, I went up to Pudge Rodriguez, the great catcher